All right, we are live.
Hello.
Hi,
Nice to see everyone.
let's just make us live with Instagram. So now we're on too.
So
Um,
fancy.
oh, so it was nice spending some time with you last week.
Yes, yes. I
Yeah,
really enjoyed when you came over and we got to deep dive into family dysfunction. It was a lot of fun. It does
exactly.
make you feel better though when you find out like everybody has a crazy family member, or more than. And I didn't even talk about my crazy family. We spent the whole time talking about other people's crazy families.
I know. It was fun. I showed Richard that tree and he was like, "Oh, wow, look at that." And then anyways, he was just talking about like how that could have happened cuz
Oh
Courtney
yeah,
has this tree that like the trunk is laid down. It's like lounging,
and
right?
then the tree grows from like the lay down position. There's like all the yeah.
Yeah, and you have new growth that's like of roots that are coming out towards
Hmm.
both sides of where
Hmm.
it's laying down. So, anyways, it was really cool. It was cool.
Yeah, it's a big bur oak tree, so it is determined to survive, and I have no idea how it got flat, but it was like, "No, I'm still here. I'm gonna
Well, it
stay."
probably Richard was saying it probably fell over in a storm.
Oh, and
And
then just stayed alive.
exactly,
Yeah,
exactly.
probably, and that makes sense considering the owners never did anything to the house when they were after they bought it. They're like, "Our tree fell down. Ah, just leave it.
Yeah.
It'll be fine."
Well, it's expensive, tree work, so
Yes, that's true. That's true.
All right. Well, I'll go ahead and get us started. My name's Shantae Marquez, and welcome to the Dog Gurus Live. If you could see us and hear us, please write in the chat hello. We definitely love to know that you're out there and that all of our technology is working okay.
Mhm.
And today I'm joined with one of our best Profit Network coaches on the Dog Gurus staff, Courtney Emkin. So,
Hello. Nice to see everybody.
yeah. And for those of you who don't know about the Dog Gurus, well, we provide pet care business education and coaching. So we really love to empower pet care entrepreneurs at every stage of their business. And we have all been business owners ourselves. So we understand the demands of the pet care business industry firsthand. And some of our coaches are still operating their businesses. So they're right there with you. We have all been through every challenge you're currently facing and conquered it. And we love to share our knowledge and help you overcome any challenges that you're experiencing.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely. Like, why should you have to learn all your lessons the hard way when we did that for you?
yeah, exactly. Ultimately, what we want for you is to help you become more profitable, efficient, and effective at your
Mhm.
business. I mean, that really is our goal.
Yeah.
So, before we get started on our topic, I also want to mention that right now we are having a spooky sale. So, we are doing $50 off of our pet business growth workshop admission tickets. So, that is going to happen in Fort Worth, Texas, February 26th to the 28th in 2025. So, if you're looking for a place to just be a part of a really positive, encouraging community where you can learn a lot of great content on how to run your business better and actually do some workshop activities. This is the place for you. And it's just going to be fun. We are a lot of fun. I'm not going to toot our own horn, but we are fun to hang out with. So,
We are kind of fun. And Fort Worth in February, at the end of February, is just when the chill is starting to get, it's starting to get a little bit warmer. So it'll still be cool, but it won't be, as cold as it gets in the north. So you'll be able to bring a light sweater and a jacket and you'll probably be fine. So,
it'll be a nice place to visit in February if you're coming from a cold region, but
mhm.
it's just going to be a really great time and we're all really excited about it. We're working up some really great presentations for you and some exercises that you could do to workshop for and bring back to your business to implement. So
Mhm.
if you haven't gotten your ticket yet, go ahead. For 1 week only, we're doing $50 off.
I love the coupon code spooky. Spooky.
Yeah.
Very exciting.
All
Yeah,
right.
we're time.
So today we are going to be talking about industry standards. And the pet care industry is still very unregulated, but it's
Mhm.
slowly changing. However, there are best practices to keep the dogs and the staff safe. So let's talk about that. And I know this is a really passionate subject for Courtney. So
Yeah, so I'll just tell you, I just want to explain a little bit. So the reason that I was thinking about this topic when we were coming up with ideas of what to talk about this week, and I am in between dogs right now, which is the first time in close to 30 years that I have not had a dog. But I'm already scouting out, and I'm just moved about a year ago to a new place, and I'm already scouting out like my next future pet care facility. And as I'm doing my research, I'm really started to get frustrated, mostly just online with online presence. Like I had a real hard time finding people that were regularly posting on social media, that were taking the care to make sure their websites were updated and things like that. But I also have, as you could imagine, at having owned and run a pet care facility for 27 years, I have a very high standard of what I expect from another facility. And so I thought it'd be great if we could just talk about, since there are no official national standards that are regulated and licensed, we could talk about from our company's perspective what we think, your standard should be, so that if there are things that you're not currently doing, you can start working toward that to make your facility even better and more marketable to potential clients.
yeah. And there are some states that actually do have some regulations. So before we jump into the specifics of standards, let's just talk about that because I think it's interesting.
Sure.
Colorado, they actually have regulations on staff to dog ratio, and that is 1 staff member per 15 dogs. Now, in my research, I don't know if that applies to all animals in the house, in-house, or if it's just in group off-leash play. But I thought that was interesting, which is kind of the standard that we recommend too: one staff member to 10 to 15 pets out in group play. And then North Carolina, they have 1 staff member per 10 dogs in a group play scenario.
Yeah, and that's really ideal, I would say, is 1 to 10.
I agree. We would kind of bounce somewhere in the middle, depending on the energy of the group and stuff. But I agree. And then Texas, for a state that claims they don't do much regulation, there's actually some regulation for this industry. And they actually require written consent from the owners if you're going to have a facility that allows that have the dogs left overnight without anybody attending them. So that's really interesting, as well as they are requiring everybody to put a sprinkler system into their facility.
Yeah, and if you can't put the sprinkler system in, you have to let your clients know in writing that you don't have a sprinkler system. And that was all those regulations, which aren't very many, but those few regulations were put in place because there was a pet care facility here in Georgetown that caught fire and burned, and all the animals perished in the fire. So that's why they came up with that. Other than that, before that, they didn't care about anybody. So it was like the Wild West here in Texas. Like, there was nobody checking to make sure that you were a good facility. There was nobody checking to make sure you were being safe with dogs, or that you even understood behavior. There was just nothing. And so at least there's something now, even though that's a big deal for pet care facility owners, because most of them can't afford, unless they already have it. Retrofitting it to add sprinkler systems in can be well over $100,000. So it's not a small expense if you decide you want to add it after the fact.
Yeah. And I think there is going to be more regulations coming on the horizon, especially, I mean, my facility was in California, and I was so surprised that there was nothing, because California is very regulated in every aspect of operating a business. So, but I wouldn't be surprised if that was coming on the horizon soon, or like Washington State is another state that comes to mind that I'm surprised don't have anything. But.
Yeah.
All right, so let's jump into it.
Sure.
What do you want to talk about first?
Sure. Well, I would say for those of you who have group play, whether it's indoor or outdoor, you want to make sure that you have the ability to separate your large and small dogs and your puppies and tiny dogs. I mean, we tried to keep, dogs grouped by size and temperament. So just because dogs are the same size, they might not all have the same play style. So you could have, medium-sized active dogs with medium-sized mellow dogs, or maybe your super mellow, shy wallflowers are in with the smaller dogs. But you want to make sure that the size difference isn't much more than, I'd say, 10 to 15 pounds. You don't want a Great Dane hanging out with Chihuahuas. That's just not a good business practice. So keep your dogs divided by size and temperament, but also try to make sure that you have separate areas for different sizes of dogs and dogs with different play styles. And make sure those puppies and tiny dogs are kept away from the bigger dogs, especially the ones that are rowdy players.
Yeah. And I'll also say, I talk to a lot of startup companies, and there's a big trend of like having cafe dog park like that. And just one thing that I want people to think about if you're going to be building a pet care facility, whether it's just, indoor daycare or an outdoor facility, is to have double gated entrances.
Yes.
So, these dogs can be slippery sometimes going through the gate. But have the double gated entrances, and also have a place where dogs can rest and kind of get away from all the activity, because they do need the rest. Having dogs out in 6-8 hours of constant play is actually a lot. It's a lot. I mean, just think about if your toddler had 6 or 8 hours of recess. I mean, it's
All day, every day.
All day, every day. So just something to think about, like make sure that you have space built in for the dogs can get, have some downtime too, because that's really important.
Yeah, and those double gates keep you safe in case somebody tries to bolt. They bolt into another area that's enclosed. So it does keep them lowers the chances that you'll get an escapee into interior or, to the outside, because you want to avoid that at all possible areas. You want to make sure that for every square foot of dog play area, that for every dog, you've got, let's see if I can write it, 70 to 100 square foot per dog of play area. So, you can have a little less than that, like closer to 50 if it's tiny dogs, but you want to make sure that you're giving the dogs enough area to actually like run around, and that they have space to get away from each other. Not every dog in the play group is going to want to hang out together or play together. Some are going to be kind of in the corners or maybe more attentive with the staff. And so you want to make sure there are not only enough square footage for the play area, but that there are safe areas for the dogs to go to and maybe hide under, like maybe there's a bridge or a little play equipment where the dogs can kind of go and get away from groups. If there are, some rowdy players and they don't want to be a part of it, you need that too.
Yeah. And then that's also great information if you are a startup and you're trying to calculate your numbers and forecast how many dogs can you fit in a play space of 1,500 square feet or 1,000 square feet. Those are the numbers that you can calculate to see, okay, I can have 30 dogs in this group. And then you can start doing your numbers that way.
Right. No, that's really smart. And a lot of people wouldn't think about this, because in the old days, people would just say, oh, my dog to run and play all day. Actually, you do not want that. So you want to be able to have a dedicated space area where dogs can nap, whether that is, enclosed crates or enclosures, like, individual enclosures per family or per dog, where they can have some rest time, especially if they're there for multiple days for boarding. You want them to be able to have a place where they can go every day and have at least 2 hours of nap time or downtime. Because it's really important that dogs get some rest, especially when they're boarding for long periods of time.
Yeah. And if there's an incident that breaks out, you need to have a safe space to put the dogs too, and to separate them. So sometimes when we're dreaming about our business, we're only thinking of the good things, and we forget that it can be dangerous too. And so,
another thing that a lot of people don't think about when they build a facility is where you can quarantine a dog that suddenly falls ill. That's not something that many of us think about, but when somebody comes down with, canine cough or some kind of communicable illness, you want to be able to put them in kind of an airtight, locked, separate place where it's separate ventilation. I mean, that's a lot to do. I know vet clinics have those, but it's as
Important.
soon as you put another dog next to that dog, you're increasing that dog's chances of getting ill. So you want to make sure you have sort of a quarantine area, whether for some people that live on the property, that might be their home. But if you have your own pets at home, then you're, subjecting those dogs to, potentially getting ill. But you want to have a place where you can put dogs that are showing signs of illness.
Yeah, absolutely. So the next standard that we can talk about is the evaluation process. This is
Mm-hmm.
really, really important. And I know that there is a number of different ways that facilities evaluate dogs, but we believe that there is a specific way that you can do it to try to have the safest play groups as possible. So we do have a project called Dog Evaluations. So if you want to know the step-by-step process and develop it and implement it in your facility, you can do it. But do you want to talk about a little bit about that evaluation process?
Yeah. So, I found it really interesting when we came up with our evaluation process. Ours was like a 3-page document that we went through all these different steps to see how a dog was by themselves, in a crate, in a tub, with staff, without staff, with dogs, without, all the different things, and not just any dogs. But there were facilities in my town, and these facilities still exist, where you can take your dog to this facility and they try your dog for 5 minutes with a female and 5 minutes with a male. And if they're fine, then they're good nationwide. And that is really risky. And usually what happens is they get accepted, they come to daycare, they get in a scuffle, and then they get kicked out. And so if you're putting more effort into your evaluation process, you're going to have more success in finding dogs that do want to play and matching dogs with the right play styles. But if you're rushing the process and you're doing it for free, you're not really giving it your all, and you might get it to accept a lot more in the front end, but you're going to really increase your risk for injuries in the back end.
Yeah, I agree. For our facility, we had a process where we would put the dog in the play area by themselves, let them get familiar with the smells, go do some exploring.
Mm-hmm.
Then a staff member would come in and kind of play with them and get comfortable with them. And then we'd let one dog in. And it was usually a dog that we knew tend to do well or match their energy style. And then we would slowly just bring in another dog, and we would that way. If we saw at any point we saw the dog start to stiffen or get uncomfortable or is a little too much, then we would just cool it for a moment, let the dog get comfortable with the group that it was, and see how it goes. But that was kind of our slow process of just introducing the dog. And this was like, typically we asked that the dog was there for an evaluation for 2 to 4 hours. We let them have a half day at daycare basically with the evaluation day. But that was one method that we used.
Yeah. And did you charge for your evaluations, or how did you do that?
I did not charge, but I know that we tell people that they should charge. For my facility, we did not. But I was okay with that. It was a way to get the customers in the door, and I came from an area that we had a lot of competition that I was fighting.
Okay.
So
And
we had a very heavily competitive market.
Yeah, we didn't charge at first, but then we had a long wait list of people waiting to get in. So we started charging because everybody was trying to get their dog in for an evaluation. And finally, when we started to charge, it was a lot more discerning clients that were serious about wanting to use our facility. And we would charge them, like, I think it was $20 or $25 for a day of daycare. I'm sorry, not for the day, for the evaluation, on top of what we charge for daycare. Just for their first day. And then if they couldn't come for daycare prior to their first boarding stay, we would just tack that fee on to their first boarding stay. But we felt like, and I'm sure you agree, that all dogs are always being evaluated every time they're at your facility. It's just that initial fee for the extra work that goes into making sure that there's safe introductions, and that, you're watching body language and recording behavior, anything that's worrisome, so that the customer is getting a good, a well-rounded evaluation process, and they know that you know what you're doing.
Yeah, absolutely.
So it worked out for us, and we never had to raise that price. It was just like an initial kind of, this is the fee to get started, and people didn't have a problem with it. So it worked out.
How much did you charge?
It was like $25, I think.
Yeah, I think
Yeah,
that's good.
on top of the day of daycare. So if daycare was 35, then it was, 60 for that first day, but then it was 35 after that.
Yeah.
So, and it depended on, I mean, our prices, we closed a few years ago, so prices may be different where you live. And
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
you want to think about the time that you put into it and make sure you're covering the cost of the staff that it takes to do that work.
Yeah, absolutely.
Mhm.
All right. And let's talk about operating procedures. This is one of
Sure.
my favorite topics. And if you ever see me speak live at anything, I tend to work this into my presentations. But I'll just explain, like, operations. Your services are your operations, but
Mhm.
your systems are what deliver the operations, the services, basically,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
You have to have your systems set up with inside to be able to give that great customer service that you want.
Right.
So let's talk about operational procedures. Let's just talk. We'll focus on. I think this is mostly focusing on group play, off leash play.
Okay. Okay.
Okay.
So I know that one of the things we recommend is that dogs play naked without collars. And that's so that their collars don't get caught. I know with a martingale collar, a dog can get their nose stuck in the other dog's collar and then it twists. You what?
I've seen a tooth. Like before
Yes.
I had a facility, this was like at a family member's. Our two dogs
Mhm.
were playing. They had the chain collar, and their dog got caught. Their tooth got caught
Yeah.
on the dog's collar. Yeah.
Yeah, and
So
it can get really serious really fast when that happens.
yeah.
You could also have a dog get their tags caught on the fence, and then the dog starts to freak out, and they start flipping their body, which makes the collar tighter and tighter and tighter. So it gets really dangerous really fast. If you do have now, we were an outdoor, mostly outdoor facility. We had indoor, outdoor kennels, but our play areas were all outdoors, and we didn't want dogs to escape and not have any identification on. So all of our staff carried like emergency shears to cut through collars if there was an incident. But if it's an indoor facility and you have double gates, then then we would absolutely recommend naked dogs, no collars.
Yeah, we did naked. But we also had a system where it was like those paper collars. So
Hmm.
they were new. If there was a
Hmm.
new dog, we'd put their name on it. Or if they were, for us, a human companion dog where they weren't actually a good fit for group play, we would put those paper collars on. And that was another indication, like, hey, do not put this dog out in group
Right,
play,
right. Warning.
to remind us.
And I don't know about you, but we didn't have toys in our play areas. So we didn't want things for dogs to like have scuffles over or anything, but we did have plenty of fresh, clean water. And that water was freshened from scratch. The water containers were rinsed, scrubbed, and clean, filled with clean water every day. They weren't, we weren't just topping off day after day, because that's a great way to get algae in your water buckets.
Oh no,
Um,
we would switch out. We had a routine that basically there was time stamps that we would switch out the water buckets, and it was about 4 times a day
yeah.
throughout the day. Like that was one of the things that the staff member would be assigned, and they'd have to
Mhm.
just check off. So that was really important. Yeah, and of course rest. We already kind of spoke about that a little bit, but
Yep.
it's really important if a dog is going to be doing a full day of daycare with you to at least give them a minimum of 2 hours of rest at some point throughout the day. But having your daycare, if you're a facility that does all day play and
Mhm.
thinking about switching to a structured play schedule, there's a
Mhm.
lot of great benefits, not only for the dog but for your staff too. And it allows your day to be broken up where you can actually do some of these other operational tasks of cleaning and things like that.
Right. Right. But when you are in group play, you want to make sure those dogs are supervised 100% of the time.
Absolutely.
Um, and that you have, that ratio can really make a difference. My son worked at a place up in the Dallas area for a short time, and it was short because of the way they ran their business, but they had like 4 play groups, but they could keep up to 400 dogs. And so they would have just like 50 dogs in a play group.
Wow.
And
That's
Yeah, and the dogs, if they paid for playtime, those dogs went in a play group whether they wanted to be in one or not. I mean, there was just so much was happening that was very unhealthy for the dog. And they had squirt bottles and all kinds of things that I would never recommend. So I'm always going to say we want you using 100% positive reinforcement tools when you're in a playgroup setting, so that you have ways to direct play and break up play if it's a little bit too rough, or if dogs are kind of chasing another dog and the other dog's clearly not enjoying it. You want to be able to break it up without using any harsh tools or intimidation.
Yeah, yeah. So if you're curious about some of those techniques, we actually do offer a program for staff training. It's called Pet Guru College and Knowing Dogs, and that teaches positive reinforcement handling techniques. So
That's so important. So important.
we got you covered in a lot of aspects there.
We really do. I mean, when I think about all the things that I did, and I knew the dog gurus for a very long time. We were all colleagues. We knew each other. But when I got involved and became a client, I was just blown away by all the things that I could have been doing better all those years. And I would have been so much more profitable and just had so much happier employees and just all the things. Like, I just, my husband describes it as a master's level degree in pet care, but it's just so helpful to know that there are people like the dog gurus out there that really can help you elevate the level of business that you provide to clients.
Yeah. Yeah. Education is huge. I mean, ongoing education for your staff is another standard that we really encourage you to implement. So
Absolutely.
whether that's canine body language training or it's just positive reinforcement methods, there's also
First aid.
first aid, CPR, what else? There's OSHA stuff, of course, bite prevention education.
Yeah.
There's so much.
How to break up a fight safely if that were to happen, what to do. There are certain techniques that people resort to automatically just without even thinking about it. And some of those techniques don't work. You don't want an employee to reach for a collar when there's two dogs getting into a scuffle. That is a great way to get bitten.
That's right.
But you can pick up the dog's back legs.
Yeah, bite zone is really from the shoulder blades to the head. And that is typically people's first instinct. In fact, Sarah, our CEO, was just telling us a story of a neighbor of hers that got bit because his dog was at a dog park. And there was a scuffle that happened. And I'm assuming that he probably reached for the collar because that's the instinct that people have, and he got bit up.
Yeah. And dogs they're just reaching for whatever. They don't know what it is. They're just biting to get whatever that is off of them. But it's a really, even if there's dogs that are caught up in their collars and you go to try to rescue them, you're still going to get bit probably in the middle of it all. Like, just because. Yeah. Bart's chiming in. He said his worst bite was breaking up, dogs who got stuck together, like literally stuck together.
No, got stuck in a fence.
Bart, you have to come over on the screen if you're going to talk.
You have to join us if you're going to comment, Bart.
I am just a disembodied voice.
He said, "I'm just a disembodied voice."
I'm not dressed.
Yeah. Then don't come in. He's not dressed again.
Oh, again.
Last time. Well, this is what happens when your husband retires from pet care.
Yeah, like it's 3:00 in the afternoon in Texas.
A lot of times is barely dressed.
Oh, I envy your life, Bart.
Oh my gosh. Okay. So you also want to make sure you have a formal process for your new hires to progress through training. None of this, like, I hired you today, you shadow this guy for 2 days, and then you're off and running. That is not how to do it. You want to make
turnover. That's the way to do it.
Yeah.
If you're a place that's like, why can I not keep staff? I would really highly recommend that you look at your training system, because
or if you have one
failure, and if a staff member isn't taught how to properly handle the dogs and they have that negative experience, they're going to be scared to come back to work.
Yeah. You definitely want to, and training should be ongoing, something that's a part of regular staff meetings, which are also really important. But if you're having regular staff meetings, then there's always an education moment that you can add in there. And then you can talk about snout to tail, examinations and ways to do pass-bys that are safe. There's never, I mean, there's always something to talk about when you do a staff meeting. There's always something to talk about related to training and education for just how to handle dogs in a group setting and how to be safe when you're passing two dogs from each other, or there's just so many things to talk about.
Yeah. With the dog, we have a whole series of lunch and learns that we recommend. That could be a whole year of monthly staff meetings that you have, monthly staff meeting topics that you could do in your facility. So those are pretty cool. With our library subscription, and it also is inside the Pet Guru College as well. So
oh, great. Yeah. Those are great, because then you don't have to think about what to train. It's already made for you, and there's handouts that you can give out to the staff and everything. It's fantastic.
Yeah. So if you want to learn more about some of these daycare standards, I have a couple of options for you to consider, and I'll go ahead and start this one. I'll put this one on the screen.
Sure.
So on our website, we have a section that is free resources. Hey, everybody likes free things. So there's so much great content in here, but if you scroll down about middle of the page, there's this daycare operations standard summary. So all you have to do is click here, put in your information, and we will email you a copy of this. And this is a lot of what we talked about here is inside the summary, but there's much more too. The other thing that I was going to recommend too is our book called 4 E's of Excellence. So that is this book right here. And this is just a great addition to anybody that's operating a pet care facility. It's the 4 E's of Excellence in off-leash dog play. So it'll really help set you up to have safe practice inside your facility.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's great.
Yeah. And then last thing that I will do is, do you have anything else to add to this topic before I wrap up the day?
Wow. Yeah, I would say whenever you do tours, which I would let anyone who wants to tour your facility, please say yes and show them everything. But I would make sure they know that you know these things, and tell them what you're doing to keep dogs safe. Tell them what you're doing to keep your staff educated. Tell them what you're doing for all the things that make your facility great. You want to make sure and share what differentiates you from your competitors and why you're better and why they should come to you.
Yeah, I think that's important. It sets you apart too, actually, because if you give your tour and you talk about those things, if they are shopping around and getting tours at other places, that will actually give them information to prompt those other facilities those questions. And if they can't compete because you're doing all this great stuff, they're going to come back to you.
Yeah, we used to give out a handout that said how to find a good pet care facility, and it was like a whole little list of checks. And so I was like, please check off here and then take this to another facility and see if they can do all these things. And, usually they came right on back.
Very smart marketing. Oh, Christina says, I agree. All right. Yeah. All right. So last thing is, I will invite you to join our Grow Your Pet Care Business Facebook group if you haven't already done so. I'll go ahead and just put the link in the chat here. There you go. So we just have 2 rules, and that is be nice, because we're all about positivity. And second is no selling. So we really want it to be a forum just to, a community where people can get advice or just make some friends. So.
Yes. Thanks, Christina, for your great comments. We appreciate you being here.
Yes. All right, everybody. Have a great day. Get your spooky sale tickets for the Pet Growth Workshop.
And get your boots out. Hope to see you in February.
That's right. Okay. Bye, y'all.
Bye.